Ready to roll.
Ready to roll. Hello, Easton.
Yo, what up?
In with the gangsta.
I wasn't gangsta. It was just, yo, what up? I don't know what's gangsta about that.
Yeah, I know you said we weren't off schedule, but happy back on schedule.
Yeah, we are back on. It's Sunday.
Yeah, it's
There
Sunday.
was a race this morning.
There was racing all day.
That's true. Yeah, it was
There was a lot of racing this weekend.
Yeah.
We had Moto GP, World Superbike, and Moto America, and probably other ones that I can't find on my TV. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about those things. What else are we talking about? The fact that I didn't go to Vegas and Instagram's full of all the Las Vegas motorsports. Boy, you missed out on an amazing track day videos.
We could touch on that, or from the sound of it, if you're kind of.
No, I'm a little bitter.
Yeah, we could just leave that alone.
Let's roll the intro and then we'll get into it.
All right. Intro.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sixth.
All right. And we're back.
We're back.
I'm trying to work on a radio voice.
Yeah, what is a radio voice?
I don't know. Something opposite of mine. Something that doesn't change octaves all the time, burn people's eardrums out.
Octaves?
I don't know if that's even a word, but yep.
Are you talking about like going from like super low to super high?
Sure.
Octave.
Probably just something that doesn't change.
So to have a good radio voice, you need to just be monotone and just speak into the microphone, and you just kind of go nonstop. There's no up, there's no down, there's no change in pitch or any excitement in your voice at any moment.
Yeah, right. That's you.
Oh, that's weird.
Old One Gear.
Hey.
What?
That's a good motorcycle relation. I like that.
Yeah. We'll call you One Gear.
That's ridiculous. Well, hey, how about those Japanese people? By that, I mean the Japanese bikes.
They still race?
Yeah, actually, this weekend they do race.
Yeah. Well, it's still arguable. I think. Well, let's start there. I think
Okay.
Marc Marquez got under Joan Mir's skin, and Joan Mir decided he better start racing a motorcycle again, or he can't talk smack in the shower room. I don't know.
I don't know.
Did you see what happened with them at the test in Misano? Apparently, Joan Mir and who's their other rider? Oh, Stefan Brattle, their test rider.
Okay, yeah.
They both came back to Honda and said, "We like the new bike." And Marc Marquez and Taka Nakagami said, "We like the old bike."
Weird.
And because Mark is Mark, they will be using the old bike.
Nice.
Until further notice, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they asked Mark about it in the press conference, the Thursday press conference, and I can't remember verbatim, word for word, but it was something along the lines of those other guys can say whatever they want, but until they beat me on this new bike, shut up and sit down.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
That's not how he said it, but that's how I took it.
Well, I will say Honda had a pretty good weekend all around. I mean, Brattle wrecked out of the sprint, but that is what it is. But both Mir and Marquez made it straight into Q2.
Right.
If I'm getting that info correct. And
yes, they did.
Then we had a wreck out on the sprint for John Mir.
Yep.
Which was that corner one?
I don't remember, but it was. I mean, it was about mid sprint. He was up there.
Yeah.
Him and Mark were going back and forth fighting before he crashed.
I'm thinking it was the same corner that then Mark wrecked in, but I don't know. But yeah, he put it down and said, "Man," and deuced out, whatever. He gone. And I was just kind of laughing because I was like, so unless you're Brad Binder, qualifying, is like vital in today's MotoGP.
True.
Or
I
like,
like the Brad Bender reference.
okay,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's just where we're at, right? And it seems like they're all season, with the Yamahas and the Hondas. I've kind of been like, what if you did put them on, the front line or the second row, first row, second row? What would they do up there? Could they figure that out, or are they really just that bad? And then, what do you know? I had a couple Hondas up on the second row, and I had a Yamaha on the fourth row, third, probably third row.
Third.
Yeah. Sorry, now I'm getting all. I got to pull it up so I stop just quoting random things here. Sorry, everyone. Q2, he was in eighth. Yeah, so third row. Okay. And what do you know? They were doing pretty good. Then Mir wrecked out. And so I just kind of laughed to myself because I was like, you had a great opportunity here to do amazing things, right? And
And the same with Mark, though.
yeah, same with
On
Mark.
the race, it was a similar situation. He was up there fighting, and
I agree. Yeah, and that's been the talk all day as far as the not the commentators, but all the Instagram posts and everything else with all the Mark fans is like, what could have been, up there fighting for a podium, blah 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 blah.
so since you mentioned commentators, I have to throw this in.
Okay.
We talk about how them commentators they get stuck on one thing.
Yeah.
So I know we're talking MotoGP right now, but the World Superbike this week, the guys got on this thing where they were saying that rider is the cork
Okay.
that's ready to pop.
Okay.
And they meant it was the rider holding up the bikes behind them.
Okay. Yeah.
And they used the analogy 15 times over the course of the weekend. Like every time somebody would come up, oh, that guy's the cork. That guy's the cork that needs to pop.
Oh man, that's
It's
good.
like, come on. All right. So back to MotoGP. Sorry.
He's the potato in the exhaust.
Yes. Well, I have to say that because Mark, kudos to his riding this week. I mean, I think he was doing a good job. But at the end of the day, for most of that race, he was the cork that needed to pop because he was up there fighting, but he was, for some of that race,
For the sprint or the race?
for the sprint, you didn't see much of him in the race after.
I was gonna say, okay, yeah, because in the race he would actually look like he was kind of right on Bagnaia. And I was like, oh man, Bagnaia and Martin are going to be sitting there fighting. Hopefully that brings Mark in. Bizzacci, obviously a different world. For whatever reason, the Indians must have sent him some intel beforehand and like, here's the
So,
path to success.
so you mentioned Brad Binder being the guy that doesn't matter where he qualifies on the grid.
Yeah.
How about Bizzacci in that sprint race and that comeback?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, they were saying it though, the lap times he was putting down were like insane. Brad, for whatever reason, can just fire through a start.
Right.
And like the first lap, he's just really good at first lap. Bezecchi just had that speed, which just showed itself again today in the race. It's just pure. For whatever reason, I'm telling you, I think they just sent him the predetermined, or maybe he played the video game a little more than everyone else.
I don't know. I love that guy. I love that guy. In the press conference on Thursday, they made him for the social media portion.
Mm-hmm.
They made him try to draw the track.
Okay.
Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't get the press
They made
conference.
him put on a blindfold. Then they had like a board with a marker, and then they had to draw the track.
Right.
And Brad Benders, he said he needed to apologize before he turned the board around. He said he needed to apologize, and I need to hold my hand over part of it because it looked like a male anatomy.
Ah, he did that on purpose.
Yeah, so he was trying to cover some of it. That was kind of funny. But when Bezecchi is a man of few words generally,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a language barrier thing because it's not lack of personality. He just doesn't. He's a man of few words.
Yeah.
And he drew his, and he had crossed his own track a couple times, so it was making like figure eights. There was multiple
Gotcha.
places on the track where it crossed.
Right.
And so when he turned his around, he just serious as could be. He looked at the camera and he says, "I need 2 bridges."
What? Okay.
He didn't need no bridges today.
Yeah, well, I mean, shout out to him and due to some events that I'm sure we'll get into in a minute or two, but he's back in championship contention now. Those are very interesting words because championship contention just means that with the amount of races left and the amount of points available, you could still take the championship. not necessarily actually able to. And I haven't actually looked at the points yet today. I'll pull that up in a second. But
So Bezzecchi's down 44.
okay, so that's not that bad. But I mean, him, Martin, and Bagnaia are obviously all in
Still in
contention,
contention.
right? Yeah, which is great because we're getting like a long season this year, and it's going to stay that way unless a certain robot keeps non-roboting. But um, anyway, back to Mark real quick, just to finish that up. I was pretty impressed. I think it's a good weekend. Puts the bike down, so third in the sprint. Maybe he was holding people up, maybe not. Who knows? Whatever. Did that. In the race today, it looked like he might have, at least for the first half, had he not put it down, might have been able to do something with the Ducatis. It seems like usually he's kind of up there and then falls off. This time he actually fell off. But then he got the bike back up, and then he went from 15th up into 9th. I'm probably,
Nice.
I think, behind 15th.
It
So,
was a good day today for him. I mean,
yeah.
it was a good day, but he's got to keep the Grassini guys happy so they don't change their mind.
Yeah, and that's the big talk now, isn't it?
Well, you heard what I mean. Ducati for the first time made an official statement.
Mm-hmm.
They said today.
We
They
have
said we're just waiting on Mark's decision. That's the first time Ducati has acknowledged that there's an opportunity for him to be there at Grassini.
I have an announcement. Purely opinion here. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I have an announcement that's purely opinion.
Okay.
I hope he doesn't go anywhere. I don't want to see Mark on a Ducati.
Yeah, neither do I.
If you're a huge Mark fan and you want to see him win 5 more championships and that's the only way you think he can do it, then great, whatever. But that's just one more thing watering down the sport. We already have too many Ducatis on the grid as we've talked. And unlike you, I thank Ducati. I thank Ducati for spending the money and putting the bikes on the grid so that we still have a sport to watch in the first place.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
But I don't want all the talented riders. If you make a list right now of the top 5 riders, Bagnaia's in there, Zecchi's in there, Jorge Martin unfortunately is in there. And those guys are all sitting on
You better
Ducatis.
be careful. You're talking about a possible world champion here.
I think it's very possible. I think Bagnaia, he's trying to have that hard candy shell on the outside, but
Pressure's getting to him.
it's and I don't know that pressure had anything to do with today's crash. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure for sure on him. I'm sure the pressure is getting to him, but I don't think that caused the crash today. I think that the ebb and flow of this sport or any sport generally, people get on a roll and then they just start rolling, and sometimes people can hold that through a whole season. That's not very common.
Yeah.
Even some of Mark's great seasons, championship seasons, you could find a spot in there where it wasn't as good as it was straight through. And Bagnaia has put together a season, this year that's more consistent and solid than any of the years, with the exception of these crashes. But when a couple of them were luck. I mean, I still have a problem with Aleix or Top Gun running into him. I know that most people say it's the other way around, right?
Yeah.
The first thing the people I was watching the race with today said was, "Can't wait to hear what excuse he has after that." Was the bike too perfect? Well,
Yeah. When the race started, right? You look at the points, and I was like, man, if Bagnaia wrecks today, that's gonna be nuts.
mm-hmm.
Because I don't think Jorge Martin will. But what I wanted was the opposite. Because Bagnaia is on my fantasy league, and Martin's not. But I dropped someone this week, and I could pick up Martin next week. So if he had lost money this week, that would have been great.
Right.
But he didn't. He went up. He's now the most expensive guy. So anyway, when Bagnaia went down, I was just honestly, kind of felt bad for the guy. Because I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, oof.
Yeah,
Because now, like, this season is already pretty long. We haven't had one go this stretched out for a while, and honestly, it's been because of his wrecks.
Absolutely.
That's it, and I'm not faulting him. Everyone wrecks bikes. Like, that's not me talking bad on him. He's done it amazing. You look at most of the races, he's in the top 3 all the time. Like, he's there. But unfortunately, because he has wrecked just enough, Jorge Martin's literally like a little freaking Spanish Chihuahua biting at his heels, just going freaking nuts. And
So,
he's not letting it, there's the wrong word, but it is catching up. And it's getting kind of scary. And I was like, man, what are you doing?
so I would say that the crash might be the best thing that happened to him. And let me explain why. Jorge
Okay.
Martin has taken points from him every time they touch a track over the last stretch.
Yep.
Every time they touch the track, like you said, Chihuahua's pulling a little here, pulling a little there.
Yeah.
If Bagnaia wouldn't have been fighting so hard to make sure he didn't lose any more points to him, if he would have settled for that third place spot, maybe rode that out and lost another 5, the bleeding wouldn't stop.
That's
because
true.
he would have. There's a little more, and he's just slowly chipping away at the confidence. The fact that he crashed, you've got to go back to week 1.
Yeah,
He's got
reset.
to go, and instead of being in defense mode, he's got to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I haven't looked up the stats on Suzuka, which is where they're going next.
Japan?
I'm just curious if Jorge Martin is good there, if Bagnaia is good there.
Yeah, I don't know. I can look that up right now if you want, but I'm not.
It'll be interesting. I think that might have been okay for him. Maybe he got that. I mean, that could go 2 ways too. He might crash every race from here on out because
That's what I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if he wrecks another one, like it's probably over. But Jorge Martin, he's surprised me the last 2/3 of the season.
been really consistent.
Yeah, I've been like, oh, okay, so he did something. Finally got used to the bike, like as the commentators would say. He's like, yeah, he's had enough time on the bike now that he knows exactly what he's doing. He gets on that bike, and his brain and that bike's ECU connect together, and they're just going, and they're sitting there and they're thinking, and then he drops to his knees, and he's done. He is worn out. He's
Yeah. So
completely mentally and physically exhausted and done. He has nothing left to give. I'm like, how do you know that? He could go do 5 more laps, I bet. You don't know crap. You're making stuff up.
but have you seen the controversy surrounding that today? Old
Mm-mm.
Simon Crayfar's in a little bit of. I mean, Simon Crayfar's never in any trouble, but he's never one to back down from people on social media. And there's been some things firing back. You probably didn't watch that, but on the podium, he did you watch him pass out allegedly?
No.
You shut it off after it was over, huh?
Yeah, I didn't even make it to the interviews.
Yeah, so they went to do the interviews and they interviewed who was third?
Quattararo.
Oh yeah. So they interviewed Quattararo. Nice interview. Quattararo went through his gloves in the stands before the interview. Bezecchi climbed a big old tower and was screaming at all the fans. It was good fan interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get those guys calmed down. They talk to Fabio, and then they should have talked to Jorge second. But so for those that didn't watch, let me back this up. After we finished the race, towards the end of the race, Jorge Martin's leather suit came unzipped.
Yeah.
During the race.
Yeah.
So Fabio Quartararo had that happen to him a year or 2 ago. But when it happened to Fabio, he reached in and grabbed his chest protector and threw it out.
Yep.
Because it was flapping around in there in the wind. So he threw it out and finished the race. There's been a lot of rule changes since then because the argument was if your helmet came off, you shouldn't be able to finish the race because you don't have the proper safety gear on.
Yeah, it's unsafe, and that's not.
Yeah, so
yeah, because you don't want to promote people. It's a tough spot, I think. Just to kind of interject for half a second, sorry, but it's a tough spot because you don't want to promote people riding unsafely. You're also like, what racer is going to be like, my suit's unzipped, I need to pull over?
Right.
So,
Agreed.
but I mean, it's also hard because there's cameras everywhere. Like,
yeah. So Fabio, when it happened to him, he finished the race, but in the middle of that race, somewhere he had reached in, grabbed it, and it was on camera for everybody to see. He pulled his chest protector out and chucked it.
Yep.
So they have changed the rules now to where that would be an equipment failure. That would be a black flag. You should have came off. So now here's Jorge Martin a year or so later, driving around the track with his suit obviously unzipped. But the difference was nobody ever seen him pull his chest protector out.
Yeah.
And he reached down relatively quick as soon as he could. He gave up on that first place spot, reached down, zipped his suit back up. He lost a second or so on the track doing that is all. Zipped it back up and finished.
Is all.
Only
a second, but did you see how much that 1 second did in there?
Yep. So when he finishes the race today, rather than driving down to the podium celebration where they would normally drive directly to, he stopped at his pit box, stepped off the bike, and fell to his knees in complete exhaustion, tears, crying, all these things. They pouring water down his back. They unzipped his suit. They were pouring water down his front, down his back, and then he needed assistance to walk down to the podium celebration. When he got there, he's either a really good actor or he was really just out of it because his legs were really rubbery looking.
Okay.
When they got him down there, he had his arm around one of his guys, and he was just walking like he just got done with a workout, and the legs weren't quite working.
Yeah.
But then it started to calm down, and he went and congratulated Fabio. He congratulated Bezecchi, and he's still exhausted, but he's standing up. He's talking to people, celebrating with his team a little bit.
Right.
It goes to Bezecchi, or it goes to Fabio for the interview, and then it goes to Bezecchi, and the camera pans over, and there's a medic over there, and he had leaned back against the wall and apparently passed out. So he was awake when the cameras went back to him, but they were feeding him like electrolytes and all this, stuff. So Simon Crafar said during the, he's doing the live discussion or whatever.
Yeah.
He says we need to check the video footage because what if he, and I'm not quoting him directly for the record, but something to the effect of what if he stopped over by those guys, pulled because he didn't have his chest protector in anymore, knowing that it's a penalty now and he didn't want to lose that second place spot. So he stopped there, collapsed down to the ground, and then there was this big crowd around him and they were putting his gear back together.
Interesting accusation.
Yeah, well, so then it blinks and they started doing replays of that when he came off the bike, and you couldn't see nobody. You could see him enough. It didn't look like anybody did that. Right. They just unzipped his suit and started. It didn't look like that happened. But when they came back and started talking, Simon felt like he needed to elaborate a little bit. And he said, I just want to point out that I'm not like throwing an accusation out.
Yeah.
He said, but there's a bunch of Yamaha guys running around down here asking that question because it would have moved Fabio to second.
Yep.
Potentially.
Yep.
So, 100%. And they've had it happen to them. So they're uniquely,
So speaking of that though, that like last 2 laps, last lap, did you catch?
Yeah.
Where that actually came from though?
Which part?
So Jorge Martin's zipper opens up.
Yeah, it was
Jorge reaches down, rezips his suit, loses a second. Quartararo's right behind him. Right? That brought Quartararo up. Then
Nope.
What do you mean
Nope. The suit was unzipped for at least a full lap because the camera went to it multiple times. And then he zipped it up and was just back into business.
Yeah.
But with 2 laps to go or with 1 lap to go, he went hot into that corner.
I'm saying okay.
Yeah, I understand it had nothing to do with the suit at that point.
I understand that, but the suit did bring Quartararo up on him. Not right on him, but it brought him up, and then he took off and was gone again. So he was hot into a corner. Okay, because I caught the suit thing, and then I saw him like take off again, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Yamaha's got nothing for him. Quartararo can't do this, whatever. And then a couple laps later, there he is in front of him. I was like, what the? And everyone in the crowd was like, what the? Going nuts. Shout out, kudos, whatever, to India. Honestly, that crowd, you could hear him in the background the whole time. That was pretty sweet. One of the first times I've heard something like that. Yeah. Okay, so it was hot in the corner because I must have not been paying that good of attention or something, or maybe the camera didn't catch it. But I wanted to go back and rewatch because I was like, there was a gap there and now it's not.
The zipper had been zipped back up for like an entire lap. And then
At least.
even the announcer made a statement like he had like 4 seconds on Quartararo.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, why are you pushing so hard, to go shoot off track like that, which let Fabio come clear back in. But
That's a good point because you're not going to make it to
yeah,
first.
But remind me to bring that up and when we talk Moto America. But we
Okay.
here's my explain the rules to me here. So how come when Brad Binder touches the green with a sliver of his tire, he has to drop back one position when he finishes the race because he might have gained an advantage, but somebody can go into a corner and blow completely off the track. I mean, full off, clear over there, come back on the track in a completely competitive way, slam into the side of somebody.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. That's okay. Come on, run into somebody.
So I do know that if a rider blows a corner and then cuts a corner, right? So like you go in a corner one hot, and then let's say one's a right and then two's a left into a snake, and so you cut two to get back in on three. If you don't drop enough time in that, like if you just blow one and then you just head through and just make it, we'll just turn it into one giant corner, then you're going to get penalized. But if you stand it up and come in and then safely re-enter and make sure you drop time equivalent to cutting that corner out, then you're good to go. The Quartararo Martin fight was really interesting to me because part of me, like, Martin comes in and freaking dang near takes the whole front of his bike off very quickly. I'm like, dude, you got passed. Like, calm down. One, that guy's not a threat. Like, what are you worried about? I understand you want as many points as you can get, but he's not a threat. But then the other side of me was like, I have a very strange thought on this topic, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. Quartararo has zero chance of a championship this year.
Correct.
Jorge Martin has a very, very high chance.
Growing every week.
Yeah, getting better every week, right? So in my head, Quartararo was like kind of fighting back with him, and I started to be like, man, just let him go. You don't want to mess with that. But then the other side of me was like, no, it's racing. Who cares? Every race is
It's
a race.
racing. Yeah, and it's going to contradict myself because I would say, hell yeah, stand your ground, Fabio. Don't give him nothing.
Yeah.
Because being second on that would have meant a lot to Yamaha, would have meant a lot to him, especially with the year that they've had. I'm sure the third place meant a lot. So yeah, don't give him an inch. But then I have to go back and say I'm criticizing Jorge Martin. I'm criticizing him for coming in like a steamroller and trying to fight, even though he made the mistake. It's his fault. So I don't mean to contradict myself, but I think that was some pretty aggressive riding from him, which I think the only reason Fabio was fighting back so hard with him is because of how aggressive it was. The guy needs to defend himself.
Yeah, I think that's why I stopped myself and like rethought about it for a second. I was like, well, okay, hold up. He passed you, and then you came over and literally like you look at it, Quartararo's here, and he freaking dang near took off his nose. Like, didn't really have any business making that pass necessarily. Obviously, he pulled it off. They're both clean, so then yeah, absolutely, you're fine. But like that was a little tight. And then Quartararo was just fighting back. So yeah, I ended up being like, you know what? No, I'm being dumb. Everything's perfectly fine here.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Real quick,
I didn't
just to
like
get
it. I don't know if he did anything with his suit, and I sure don't understand. I sure don't understand the exhaustion. I mean, I know it was hot there. A lot of the riders were struggling with it.
Yeah, but
wow, those guys. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, as long as it took him to recover too.
yeah, that was the heat thing was weird because they were talking about how hot it was. Everyone had the like cold suits on and was like sitting in the shade and all this blah blah blah. But then when they they flashed the brakes, the suggested brakes for the day, they didn't have extreme cooling brakes on there. In fact, they didn't even go up. They were at the 340 high mass and the 340 like regular. And you can go, I'm pretty sure MotoGP's got up to 350 fact check me, whatever, but 350 like extreme cooling. I was like, if it's that hot that the riders can't even handle being out, then why don't we need better brakes?
Man, it was
So anyway,
another spoiler going into. We're going to talk about Moto America later, but I did watch. I had a lot of races to watch, so you know, it's like a job. So I had to feed them in as I could, where I could, waiting for the other ones to go live, and it was quite the contrast switching from Moto America in New Jersey in a torrential downpour all weekend to those guys, you know, passing out from heat exhaustion.
Right. Well, hey, real quick, just to kind of finish this up with MotoGP, you wanted Japan stuff. So Bagnaia has raced Japan from the look of it twice. Let me go to 2018 because we didn't go to Japan in 2020 or 2021 because of COVID. And Pecco Bagnaia was not racing
back then, and neither was Jorge
in 2018
at the MotoGP level.
Yeah. So Pecco Bagnaia went in 2019 for Ducati's satellite team from the look of it. Yeah, Prima Pramac. He got 13th in 2019. The next race we did there was in 2022, last year. Jorge Martin in third, and Bagnaia wrecked out. So pretty interesting. But Japan, like last year, wasn't. Well, get this, right? You have that was the one that Brad Binder and Oliveira, like those. That was the race that really started where I paid attention to Oliveira, you know, because he was on a KTM, but he was like starting to do good things. Like near the end of the season last year, I was like, man, Oliveira is looking pretty good, and I had really high hopes for him this year, and he's had an interesting year. I haven't given up on him yet, but we'll see. Hopes aren't as high anymore. But anyway, it's just kind of weird. Ducati, KTM, Ducati, Honda, KTM, Ducati, Aprilia, Yamaha, Ducati. But it's like a weird mix because you got Jack Miller, Brad Binder, then Martin, then Marquez, then Oliveira, then Marini, then Vinales, then Quartararo, then Bastianini was like your top, and then Bezecchi was your top 10 in Japan last year. So anyway.
There ain't going to be nobody racing over there.
Yeah.
They got the injuries starting to pile up again.
Yeah, I noticed that. Marini, they said, is out.
Alex Martin or
Marquez. Yep, but we'll see. See how it goes.
Hey, the point is the season's exciting. I know you don't get into the Moto 2, Moto 3 stuff, but I would point out that Pedro Acosta won the Moto 2 race by, I mean, he could have stopped and made a sandwich and then went ahead and finished.
Okay.
But in Moto 3, Sasaki, there was two Husqvarna riders. One of them is the points leader. And the Leopold Honda rider was leading. He was out by, I mean, he blew him away. Right. He was killing him. So you had if you go back, watch the last two laps of that race, there's two teammates, one of them being the points leader, Sasaki. There's a guy in the middle of them that's obviously faster than the second place rider. The third place rider is obviously faster than Sasaki in second. The other guy's gone.
Yep.
So the announcers are going, the best thing that this teammate could do is get up there and, you know, mess with that third place rider because he's trying to come through on him. And the second place rider is going to come out with the championship, leading the championship at the end of the race if he can hold second. That making sense? Clear?
Yep.
So third place rider's all over him. Fourth place rider's doing everything he can to help his teammate, trying to mess with that guy, trying to pass him, trying to do everything he can. Eventually, the fourth place rider does exactly what his team wants. He gets past the third place rider, roughly. I mean, they were banging. It's a great 2 laps to watch. They were banging, but he gets ahead of him and then proceeds to pass the second place rider, who is the one he was supposed to be guarding.
Nice.
So he passes him, but it was just kind of through the flow of a corner. It just made sense. Like,
right.
So after taking the second place spot, I mean, these 3 bikes are in a world of their own. There's nobody behind them, nobody ahead of them, right?
Yeah, so, as it seems to be sometimes.
That guy decides he needs to let his teammate pass him.
Okay.
So he goes kind of weird wide in a corner. I don't know how to paint this picture 3 bikes go into a corner. The leader of these 3 bikes wants to let the second place bike come through, but he does not want to let the third place bike come through on him also.
Okay.
So they go into a corner kind of weird, and he moves completely up out of the way.
Yeah.
Lets his teammate come through, but he's trying to shut the gate on the last place, the fourth place rider. So he comes over hard, and he misjudged it, came over just a little too soon, and he banged off of his teammate's rear tire. He just clipped it trying to cut that other rider off.
Okay, yeah.
He clipped it, which wiped him out. Lucky for him, it didn't wipe out the points leader.
That's good.
But it did slow the points leader down enough that he lost the spot to the fourth place guy anyway.
Oh, man. Come on.
But that poor guy trying to do his best as a teammate wiped himself out of the race, which would have been like a career best finish for him. Any of those positions. A. And B, I didn't see what the penalty is, but they were absolutely going to penalize him because it was pretty obvious what he was trying to do. But it was good stuff. Good stuff.
That's funny. Well, real quick, really quick, we forgot to mention it, but we need to mention it, and kudos, shout out, whatever, Joe Roberts, Moto 2, third place finish. I completely forgot it hit my Instagram today, but it wasn't Joe Roberts' Instagram page. It was some other random page. It was like, congrats, Joe Roberts, third place. I was like, no way. And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, hell yeah, he did it.
And it wasn't
That's awesome.
because of crashes. He was fighting hard. It was a good race.
That's good. That's good.
He fought hard. It took a lot for him to pass that. They were in a battle for 5-6 laps.
Okay. So I didn't watch Moto 2, but my question is that a one-off? Is it because we're all at a new track? Is it...
Well, let me preface that answer with another question.
Okay.
Sean Dillon Kelly.
Yeah.
Was removed from American racing. He picked up a ride at Forward Racing. He looked, you might want to back me up, but pretty sure he finished 15th.
Correct.
I believe he had a pretty good finish last week. This was his second week on the Forward Racing bike. And I'm sure he's doing everything he can to stick it to those boys that let him go, to show him that he can do it. But those are his 2 best finishes since he's been over there.
Yeah.
So he's doing, I would say he's got to be happy with those results. He's doing good.
Yeah, if you're doing better, you're doing better. So,
but some of it, I mean, Joe Roberts finishing 3rd, he's not with that team next year. So I think sometimes riders get some extra motivation to show them like what you're losing, what we could have been together.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And shout out to American Racing, I guess, because they've got a non-American rider on there, and I think he finished 9th.
Yeah.
And that's got to be the best finish since Cameron Beaubier for them.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah, I don't know. I would love to talk to Joe Roberts and just ask him. Not because I'm just kind of curious, this weekend, what's different. And I do wonder, though, if the only reason I don't like what I'm about to say is because I don't think it's a good enough excuse for other things. But anyway, we go to India. No one's been there before. Right. No one on the grid this weekend has been raced this motorcycle. I don't know. Maybe they go there on their own time. But this motorcycle that because they're not allowed to, at this track before. So it's new to everyone. So I wonder if, because it's such an even playing field, like, that allowed Joe Roberts to be up there. I also know from personal experience, there's definitely tracks that you're happier at than others, right? Absolutely. And so possibly that track just really tailors to him. It's a super even playing field because he's not learning it compared to everyone else who already knows it and all of that. The only reason I don't like that much is because he's been over there long enough. He's been in Moto 2 long enough that he should not be falling on that, well, these are all new to me still anymore.
Right.
So, but I'm not saying he's making that excuse. I'm just in my own head. I'm like, well, no, wait, no, I don't know. Anyway, but I mean, that's awesome. It's great to see an American up on the podium. Maybe he's got more to show us. And
congrats to Sean Dillon Kelly. Also, that's good results for him, and hopefully he can
keep that
show something over there and do what he wants to do going forward.
Yes.
And last thing before we move off of the Moto GP.
Okay. And then I'll have one more thing. I'm just kidding.
My jacket today, for those at home, I'm wearing my Red Bull KTM Racing Team jacket today. This is in memoriam. This is in memoriam to my friend Jack Miller's career. What in the hell, Jack? What is going on over there?
So I was trying to not bring it up because I don't want to. I want you to cry on camera.
Well, I'm bringing it up because Pedro's over there killing it. Pedro's coming. We know, right? Everybody knows. But Jack, you're not doing yourself any favors. And man, to be a fly on the wall, congratulations. You know, he just had a baby.
Mm-hmm.
His wife did. So I'm sure he's got some other things on his mind that way. But this year has been ratcheting down, not up.
Yeah.
It's been ratcheting down. And this week, in my mind, was a new low.
Yeah.
And nobody talked to, I mean, they mentioned him a couple times, but nobody really talked to, I mean, I'm sure somebody there knows what's going on, but the announcer sure as hell didn't allude to it if they knew.
No. Yeah, my only thought has been he does have a brand new kid, but like I don't know. I get that to a degree. I get, but you've been racing this long. There's no way that these guys like have a kid and then instantly go, "This is unsafe. I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, I don't think that's the case with him,
After
but
doing it that long. So I don't know if yeah, he's just distracted, but it has been a very interesting season. Maybe he just doesn't care for the rest of the season because he's like, well, look guys, I tried. I obviously didn't do it. We'll come back hard next year. This year I'm going to kind of just rest it out and stay fit for next year. I don't want to be up there causing problems. I don't know. And I don't even know, like, do they have conversations like that, or do the riders just kind of do whatever they want? And because they have contracts, that's the hard part, is that you'll sign like a 2-year contract. Like I'm pretty sure Jack Miller signed a 2-year contract, if I remember right. So
yes, he did.
theoretically, unless a contract gets broken, which I don't think the teams can do, I guess if they pay enough money or something, I don't know. I don't know the legalities of all of that, but
Sure, it's
most
different
of the
with every
time,
contract.
yeah, most of the time the team's not going to break a contract. So I do wonder sometimes if you're at the end of your first season of your 2-year contract, you're not doing great. Why not?
I can't help but think that there's some things going on behind the scenes that we're
Gotta
not
be.
aware of. And a happy rider is a fast rider generally.
Mm-hmm.
And just all the stuff that's been coming out in the media, like they asked him to be their test rider, or he's the one that's got to go all the time. He's one of the names that comes up all the time that's got to go. Maybe that some of that stuff's getting to him, because one thing you always count on with Jack is he's going to qualify good.
Yeah.
At least this year, right? I mean, Jack was going to qualify good. I'd say the same when he was on the Ducati.
Generally, yeah. I mean, he had his weeks, but for the most part, usually it was like if he doesn't make it into Q2, he's gonna make it into Q2 during Q1, right? If he didn't make it into practice, then
Right.
Q1 he's giving it everything he's got to get up there.
Even this year, as he started to struggle, I mean, we went through a phase where he would still qualify great,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bike he'd be the cork in the bottle for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, he was the cork in the bottle for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then he would just, hold people up, trickle back until he found the real spot that his speed justified.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened like weeks and weeks in a row. And then you heard this talking that they were going to come. They had some ideas. They were going to fix his bike as soon as so that he didn't have that problem. As soon as they said that, everything kind of started going to hell. As soon as they said they were going to fix his bike, then he couldn't qualify or ride. And now the stuff's coming out in the media. What? I mean, he barely beat Stefan Brattle and whoever's filling in for the Ducati. I mean, the only people he beat were the replacement riders.
Yeah.
And I thought he must have crashed, was having whatever. But if you notice during the race, they did pop over on him once.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there just racing away.
Yep.
I mean, meanwhile, Brad Binder's out there fighting at the top.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, Brad ended up in fourth, I believe. Did pass Mir at the end there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but come on, Jack, get it together. It might not be you, it might be them, but somebody get something together.
Yeah, someone's got to figure it out. Well, does that close up Moto GP?
I guess.
We're going to possibly have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different champions in the last 5 years.
Yeah, which is great.
It is good. It's
And
been a
then,
long time since something like that, so.
yeah, Mark can. It's been so long that if Mark comes back and wins on a Grassini next year, it's still going to keep that going.
Yeah. Yeah. Just about. Yeah.
Well, let's just touch on World Superbike
Sure.
because World Superbike, I know I've talked bad about it in the past as far as from an excitement standpoint, and nothing's really changed that way except for the riders switching around over there. And I'm sorry, this is going to have to tie back to MotoGP. There is over in World Superbike, nobody knows what anybody's doing. Do you know why? They're all waiting to see what Marc Marquez is doing. It's worse in World Superbike than it is in MotoGP.
Everyone in the world is waiting to see what Marc Marquez will do next year.
Everybody's waiting on Mark. Mr. Golden Underwear, make a decision. Let's move on.
That is insane.
Well, over there you got Laciona or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he might move to Honda, but only if Mark leaves.
Oof.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't think he has a contract over there for next year because they're waiting to see if he's going to go there. But if Mark goes there, then who knows what rider they might try to pull from World Superbike, possibly, which frees up another spot over there. And there's just all this talk like nobody can do anything until Mark moves. Honda is like stuck; they can't do anything. I mean, you see they signed Taka, which no offense to him, but that's just because they needed to shore something up. Let's just get that one done, move forward.
Yeah.
I don't know, but World Superbike, we got to talk about BMWs over there.
Yeah.
World Superbike, for as long as I can remember at this point, has been Jonathan Rea, Batista, and Toprak. You got a Yamaha, you got a Kawasaki, and you got a Ducati, and it's those three guys fighting every week.
Yep.
But Batista has been just running away with it the last year and this year. So he's just out. Jonathan Rea's he's been a Kawasaki guy forever. 6 championships, I think, with them. All those things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Toprak's moving to BMW. Quite exciting.
Okay.
For me. But Jonathan Rea is now moving to Yamaha to take Toprak's seat.
Interesting. Okay.
So Kawasaki doesn't have a rider currently on number 1. So they're starting to look over at maybe a MotoGP rider. People are starting to talk about like DG. If he gets kicked off Grassini, where's he going to go over there? Things like this. So everybody's kind of waiting for this MotoGP thing to work out. There's multiple places and there's multiple things that need to happen.
Yeah. Oh, to have that power.
But
I don't know what I'm going to do. Whole world pauses.
So Batista years ago was a Ducati rider. He was supposed to win the championship, but he crashed in every race for the second half of the season and totally blew a championship. Yeah. Ducati got rid of him. Redding came in. No.
In World Superbike.
In World Superbike.
Okay.
So Redding came in.
Right. Okay, back on. Yep.
And then Redding just sucks. And so they got rid of Redding and brought Batista back. And now Batista's been very successful. They love that decision. But Redding went to BMW, where Redding is the guy we talked about earlier that, sometimes decides the bike's not worth risking his life for and just parks.
Right.
So now that Toprak's going to BMW, they've been waiting because nobody knows. They're either going to fire Redding or they're going to fire Vandermark. So everybody's been waiting. Everybody's been waiting for that shoe to drop. So some people are talking or were talking that maybe Redding was going to go to Kawasaki, and there's been all this silly rumor stuff going around.
Right.
But BMW finally announced they're firing poor Baz.
Okay.
If you recall, was in Moto America a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
That's Garrett Gerloff's teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Gerloff got all the assurance he's staying.
Okay.
Which Garrett Gerloff had the pole in the last World Superbike race. He's consistently the top BMW, which is great. Awesome. So shout out to Garrett Gerloff. He's killing it.
Right.
Even if the BMWs can only muster a top 10, it's still important that you're the top of
You're
that
the
group.
top one. Yep.
And they all seem to run pretty close together on the track, so it's a nice. He's obviously working best with the bikes.
Right.
But Redding is now going to sit next. They finally made their announcement. Baz is fired. Redding is getting demoted to the Bonovo BMW, the satellite team.
Interesting. Okay.
So Redding and Gerloff will be sitting in side by side in the garage, and Vandermark is staying where he's at, and Toprak will be teammates
coming in. Okay.
So it's pretty exciting. But now Baz has not said anything negative so far.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like out in the social media banging on anybody, which
Right.
I gotta imagine he's disappointed. But it sounds like they might be working some deals behind the scenes to maybe send him to BSB or Moto America on a BMW team. So I think he's removed him from that bike, but not necessarily from the family.
Interesting. Okay.
So that could be exciting. And it seems to me like Moto America's been getting a lot of attention. You know, they're retweeting Moto America stuff on the World Superbike pages and starting to hear more and more about it. That can only be a good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a big part of me that wants to say, like, why are we getting European or not even European, but other nationality riders over here? It's supposed to be Moto America. And then I'm like, hold up, chill out. If you want it to gain what it needs to gain to do what it's supposed to do, which is introduce American riders to the world and let the world know that, yeah, we're still racing over here, then you need to be perfectly okay with anyone coming over and racing. All that will make me mad is if our top American guys can't continue to be the top guys. If we start getting beat on our own property by other people, then I'm going to be pretty upset. Not at Moto America and not at the other people, at our freaking guys. So
agreed, but BSB, I mean, it's no different in
yeah,
the Australian Superbike. Not everybody's from Australia, obviously. If you go to BSB, not everybody's from Britain.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think that's, like I said, it just, got to remind myself of that and be like, no, this is perfectly okay. We just,
yeah, and I think
like I
it's
said,
fine. Like Escalante is from Mexico,
mm-hmm.
but I look at Moto America as even though Canada has their own series, I think Moto America should be the continent, right? The American continent. So Mexican riders from Colombia, Venezuela, you know, these kind of places. That's
Mm-hmm.
where they should be competing. And if Moto America wants to expand, they should be expanding into Canada or Latin America.
Central, yeah. I don't know. So in my opinion, America has many awesome racetracks, and you can't expect a World Series to come over here 7 times in 1 year when they also have to go everywhere else. And I get that. That's what Moto America is supposed to be, is a showcase for anyone that wants to watch all of the other good racetracks in America that MotoGP can afford to keep going to. So I have zero issue with any racer, any nationality coming out. I don't think Moto America should necessarily extend. You could, because you could fall under like the just Moto America of the Americas and pick it up, but I don't think so.
Well,
I think if
so I
you
don't
want
want to be. I don't care who comes over. I don't care if Marc Marquez comes over and races Moto America, but
you would care.
I would root against him. I mean,
Okay.
I think that's your point, though, right?
Yeah.
So Petrucci came over, and I thought it was great for the sport. It was great for the, here. That was great for people to see. You know, get more people interested, get more people watching.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I didn't want him to come over and win the championship.
Yeah.
I don't care if they all come over, but like you said, we want to beat them.
Yeah.
It belittles the series if somebody could just walk over. And I think we've proven, Baz wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
Petrucci wasn't able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yamaha, Fresh and Lean Yamaha has proven that no one can beat them. So,
So BMW is helping Tytler's cycle, right? We've talked about this before.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Yamaha helps Yamaha. But
Right.
aside from that, everything else is not factory backed. If you get BMW watching even closer, if you get It'll be interesting to see what Ducati does, because it wouldn't surprise me if Baz is back here on a Ducati. I could see Ducati going to 2 bikes, maybe bringing somebody else in if they can find somebody else that wants to buy another bike, so it's not just the one team.
Right.
I could see Ducati trying to get more bikes over here. They are racing.
Well, so you mentioned BMW. Is BMW going to keep motorcycles over here at all?
Oh, that's just a
Oh.
minor setback.
Is it?
I think it's another European company that's in trouble for maybe messing around with emissions regulations.
Does that mean you get a free BMW?
Oh, I hope so. I need one at this point.
So I know a lot of people that did that with the Volkswagens.
Yep.
They had ended up buying a Jetta for whatever reason at a really cheap price, and then VW is like, "Hey, we have to take your car. Here's $10,000." They're like, "I paid $2,000 for that." But okay.
Right. So it's been a couple days since they made that stop sale announcement or whatever, and I haven't looked for a couple days, but at the time I was trying to look high and low to figure out what that was related to. And it sounded like a filter element in one of the canisters that is supplied by a vendor possibly doesn't meet emission standards.
Yeah, so it says issue with the evaporative system installed in all its bikes, both new and used, according to Web Bike World. A notice sent to dealers by BMW claims that a material in the evap system doesn't meet material specifications. BMW highlighted that the issue isn't related to safety, so current owners don't have to stop riding. The issue appears to be directly related to emissions compliance.
They'll be fine.
At the moment, it's unclear how far back the issue goes and which generations of bikes are affected. Since the BMW CE04 is entirely electric, it doesn't have an evap system to worry about. Therefore, it isn't part of the stop sale. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, if you want an e-bike, you're good to go.
You can still buy the little scooter thing.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. If you want to, that thing's kind of cool. Why's it got a solid rear wheel on it though? Anyway, yeah. So you don't have to stop riding your BMW. They don't care about the actual emissions problem, which we don't either. So whatever. But you can't go buy a BMW. That's kind of. It's not safety related. You're good. It just doesn't follow emissions compliance. But you guys already got your registration done for the year, so you're good to go until you have to re-register next year.
So our local BMW place has a couple of 23s in stock. S1000s. I honestly was talking to my better half about maybe going down there and taking a look.
Yeah.
And then, some things changed at the house that that you're aware of that made me change my mind anyway. I was like, well, better maybe sit on that for a minute. And then I seen that right after and I went, huh. The fact that I can't go buy one just kind of made me want one more.
Now you're going to go down there and convince them to sell it to you anyway?
Well, I'll sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Show me where it is. I was going to rip it off anyway.
Well, there's the BMW news for you. We talked about World Superbike. We can hit up some Moto America.
Moto America was kind of unbearable to watch. Let me tell you, I have to do this. You remember we talked about the app?
Yeah.
Buy the app, and then we had a total spike that they still haven't paid us for in app sales.
And now we're coming back and letting people know that the app is.
Yeah. So I'm a grown man, and I can tell you when I was wrong. Screw that app.
Yeah.
I can watch it live on the app.
Right.
I don't know what's been going on. Maybe this is my problem. Somebody go ahead and tell me. But the app for like the last 3 races, I can absolutely find them on YouTube faster than I can find them on the app. And
afterward, yeah, if you're not watching live.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I mean, I should look right now, but some of the races still weren't posted an hour ago on the app, but I watched them all on YouTube. So I'm looking at this app that I paid how much for when I can just go watch them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I was worried about that, when they first announced that. I was worried about like, well, why would I buy the app if I can just watch them all on YouTube in entirety?
Yeah.
But they made it sound like it was going to be the next day, or so if you want to watch them,
you can't catch them live on YouTube, but you also have to wait for a while. You're going to hear all the news first anyway.
Yeah, but that's not the case, man. Those things. There's a live one on YouTube also. There's a live video on YouTube.
You can watch the race live on YouTube.
As far as I can tell.
Well, maybe they're making more money off their YouTube channel, so they just kind of gave up on the app.
I'm gonna pull up the app right now.
While you're doing that, Gagne, the 2 Yamahas in first, the 2 BMWs after that.
Hey, don't just say the 2 BMWs. Shout out to Corey Alexander.
Yeah, for third place. Yeah.
Well, back to back.
Did you do that? Well, on Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday.
Oh yeah. I was looking at race 1 there.
Yeah.
So
first 2 podiums back to back. That's 6-foot giant.
Well, and then today, I guess JD Beach in first and Gagne in fourth. So
yeah, you know what? The funniest thing was, I don't know if you know that Corey Alexander. I don't know how tall he is, but he's over 6 feet by a bit.
And he's racing motorcycles professionally.
Yes, but it's brutally obvious that he's over 6 feet when he's riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But when he stood on the podium today,
mm-hmm.
they had not JD Beach. No, JD Beach was on the number 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who was second?
I just closed out of it.
PJ Jacobson.
Yep. Yeah, PJ, Corey, and then Gagne. Yeah.
So the way they do this, the way they do the podium in Moto America, number 1 in the middle is a certain height. It's taller than the other ones.
Yeah.
But 2 is not higher than 3. 2 and 3 are equal.
Are you telling me that Corey Alexander's tall enough that he was taller than first and second place?
Dude, he was looking in the eyes of the guy on the first place podium. Look up a picture. He was only slightly shorter than him. Because at first I was like, he got third. How come he's standing? Because they introduced, so he went up first, of course, third place. And then they brought second place on. And when they were showing him, he was so much taller than the second place guy. I was like, why they got him standing on the wrong step? That was my first instinct.
Yeah.
I thought they've got him standing on the number 2 step, but he's actually third. They're on the wrong side.
That's funny. All right, New Jersey 2023. Wow. Yeah.
You see it? You see
it? Yeah. So I've got the one from must have been yesterday because it's Jake Gagne, but he's like his eyes are in line with Jake Gagne's nose, and then the guy over in second is just
looking at his belly button.
Well, it looks like he's not even part of the picture. Like,
no, that was awesome though. That was awesome for him. Congratulations. That was cool.
That's cool. That's good. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps us up.
Think so?
Unless we wanted to talk about the elusive article from Revzilla.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. All
right.
So like them, should we save the title or keep the title of the website out of it? Okay, so here's what was funny to me. So
I don't care.
I'll just get into it here. I don't have to say the name of it. So Mr. Gixxer boy, you.
Yeah, that's me. Hello.
Yeah, always bragging about the Gixxer. Revzilla releases an article going how irresponsible it is for somebody to say that Gixxer 750 is a great starter bike or a great first bike for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I read as soon as I read the headline, I went, uh-oh. Easton tells everybody to just buy a Gixxer, right? And
yeah.
So I had to read down in the article a little bit to make sure it wasn't us. But that being said, the funniest thing about it to me was in the article, they said that it could have been AI generated because certain things didn't add up. And,
So it could be from us. Because if AI is just gathering all of the internet, at some point I have said the words beginner bike and I have said the words Gixxer 750. Not necessarily in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Except that was the first motorcycle that I owned. But so I was laughing because you sent me the article, I read it, and then I thought about our episode 13, leader bikes are beginner bikes, change our minds. And I was just like, ooh. But
yeah, so as I was reading through it, it said that they did not want to bring any more traffic to that particular site.
Mm-hmm.
it would be irresponsible of them to mention the name because it would just do nothing but draw more traffic to that website that they didn't agree with or believe in. So I read this article on my phone, and I turn to my computer and pull up my browser, and bam, it's the first story from the other place. So not mentioning them in the article didn't help because we're so surveilled. Is that the word? There's so much
Yeah, that word.
monitored,
Surveilled.
We're so surveilled that, yeah, it picked up just me talking about it, whatever. Bada bing, there's the article. So I read that whole article on the place that we shall not name, and it was quite funny to me. But
so it's interesting though. The first paragraph isn't really talking about beginner bike, first bike, because it says literally the first sentence here. I'm on the article. The first sentence is, you started on small capacity machines and are now looking to progress to your first big sports bike. It's a big milestone in your life and the source of a new core memory, right? So it's saying you started here, now you're ready to go here in the first sentence. Now I haven't personally read the rest of it, so it could after that be like, this is the best beginner bike ever, blah blah blah. But
so just to make sure we're looking at the same thing, is there like bullet points? Not bullet points, but there's like the little bullet.
yeah, over 38 years of production,
Yep.
affordability, reliable handling, power under control, sport bike you can grow into. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's got to be the article because that's verbatim from what the Revzilla article.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the first things they mentioned was the article stating that.
Yep. It does
Pretty
say
funny. Pretty funny to me.
If you are a natural born adrenaline junkie that appreciates both high performance and top rated handling, the Suzuki Gixxer 750 just may be the right bike for you. Although they messed it up, and here's why. Because everywhere through this article, they have GSX TAC R 750. And I'm pretty sure, fact check me, audience, Gixxer is a GSX R TAC 750 or a GSX R TAC 1000. Because a Hayabusa is technically kind of a Gixxer, but it's a GSX R 1300.
I don't know.
So this entire article is fake. Yep.
It's fake. AI generated.
You have it. I figured it out. Debunked.
I wouldn't believe it if Joe Rogan was saying it and I could see the words coming out of his mouth.
Oh, I could be wrong because Revzilla did it too.
Oh, no. On that rabbit hole, you have to answer this now?
I do. Yep, I have to. We don't have to. Okay, I was wrong. Sorry. All right.
Do you want the editor to fix that, or are you just going to take
it? No, it's all good. I don't care. I was wrong. I've got it backwards. Just weird. Unless I'm gonna probably Google a little more. Maybe it got changed, but I could have sworn that was like the difference. That's why you don't call a Hayabusa a Gixxer. It's because there was like that one key difference. But
gotcha.
Anyway, on that note, I think we're
on that note, let's call it. Right. Thanks for listening. Yeah. Like, subscribe, and Jack, get it together, man.
Yeah, someone that knows Jack Miller. If we got any Australian listeners, you know who he is. Please give him a knock on the door and let him know that praying hands emoji, you know. Figure it out.
All right.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.
See you next time.